Hello. For those of you who thought I was using the narrator from Windows XP, think about this. The Windows XP version of a narrator would have said foreground window, push button to press, use space bar. It would sound like that. It would sound like foreground window, press button to press, use space bar, or something like that. The narrator that I used, it did not say that. It would sound cool though. I think the early versions of narrator used to say that. So yeah. So if you're into old technology, you can try it out yourself. Because I don't have it, so I cannot look at it. I tried asking for one, and the people that I asked, they were like, no, you gotta get current stuff. I'm like, I want to try out the old stuff too, man. I never really tried out Windows. Well, I mean, I've looked at Windows XP a couple of times. Once when I was in school, and once when I did some sort of project I was doing for a few days. I'd use a Windows XP, Windows notebook or something. They call them notebooks, I think. Before the laptops, I think they were. Then they were called notebooks. But yeah. But I did not use the narrator though. I wish I did, but back in 2000, narrator was very basic, like I said in my video. I think I said it way later in the video, but narrator in 2000 was very basic. And I mean, I think more basic than the Thunder screen reader I was about to review. So the Tonetastic 685, I may have had the Windows XP Microsoft Sound Voice, but that only means that only means that you're able to get that on a modern narrator. You're able to get that. I'm surprised. You cannot get Snappy 4. But that's okay though. All screen readers have to start somewhere. Right? VoiceOver was basic at the time of its release. I believe JAWS was as well. Like every screen reader had to start somewhere. How do you think VoiceOver came to be? It started out as a basic screen reader on an iPhone. We didn't really have a lot of features, but now it's grown to be, well, I mean, like the way to get around is still around, but like the app switcher was basic. All you had to do was double tap and hold on an app in the app switcher, and it'll say editing apps. You would double tap on an app, and then it would move to the next tab, and then you would do the same action until the app switcher was empty. I can impersonate voices as you heard in the beginning. Like I said, narrator would sound like foreground window, push button to press, use space bar, or something like that. I'm not that great, but if you want to look up the real way a narrator on Windows XP sounded, just go ahead and look it up on YouTube. Windows XP narrator or Windows 2000 narrator. I don't know if you can actually get Windows 2000 narrator on PC, but Microsoft Sam was the original narrator voice. So if you want to know where Microsoft Sam comes from, he comes from Windows 2000. And you can get him on NVDA only. It supports Windows XP voices, and Eloquence has actually been around for a while. And also, if you want to talk about voiceover being basic, look at my iPod Touch review. It talks about how many voices there were, how many, what the Braille option was like. Everything was basic. Even Slideshow Unlock was there, but I don't know. So, anyway, like I said, you're able to use Windows XP voices on Windows 10 Narrator. Because those SAPI 5, they're the oldest SAPI 5 voices. And they were around since 2001, I think. So yeah, those are old. Those are old voices. Although Windows XP is no longer supported, you can probably still get the operating system from somewhere. And the best way to download it is if you have a computer that ran Windows XP, or if you have a computer that actually has Windows XP. I would suggest you try it out, because I think it's one of the best. Not that I played pinball or whatever games that are on there. I just liked it because of the narrator. I don't know why they opted to call the screen reader narrator, but I guess it's a good thing. Here, let me just turn on narrator. What narrator? You know, screen reader, Microsoft. Yeah. I actually tried out Windows 7's narrator. I've tried Windows 7's narrator a few times. Once on a school computer that I owned, for school purposes only, and a couple times on someone's computer. And they were all on school computers. I had fun with it. It had only Microsoft Anna only, but see, that's what I'm talking about. Limited. That's what I'm talking about. Basic. Windows 7 had the modern basic narrator. It's like a refresh. I never really used Windows 7. I've only used probably Windows 8 and now Windows 10. I'm real familiar with Windows 10. Windows XP is probably close to Windows 10 as you can get. So I think Microsoft opted to go back to the Windows XP style. But I don't know, don't quote me on that. But at least you can... You know what, I'd like to email Microsoft and ask, hey, can you bring support for SAPI 5 voice? I mean, SAPI 4 voices? And maybe Eloquence? And other voices? I mean, I think you can, but... I think you can support voices, but... you can actually download. Those voices were not on default as Windows voices. They were like 5 pre-installed. There was a Microsoft Mark, Microsoft David, Microsoft Zero, Microsoft David Desktop, and Microsoft Zero Desktop. And also, how do you think TalkBack started out? Everything has a starting point. We all do. Everything does. Even the iPhone had a starting point. The iPod had a starting point. The iPod had a starting point. Everything does. Even Popit. How do you think Popit came to be? How do you think Simon came to be? How do you think a computer came to be? You think someone just magically put the internet on the computer? No. The computer started out basic, only allowing you to do basic tasks like maybe print documents or whatever, I don't know. You had to give it several commands, like you have to type out print, and it will print out on the screen what you just wrote. Now that is very complicated back then, but now you don't, because it automatically does it for you. And how do you think the computer had storage? Well, think about this. Floppy drives. You had a bunch of them. They had probably about maybe 2 or 3 megabytes on them, probably. So what would be very little today was a lot back in the 80s and 90s. Yeah, that's right. Computers at the starting point. I don't know why I said port. Starting point. Even back in the 60s, computers were around. Although they weren't like for businesses or homes. They first started out in businesses. Then they went to homes. And then we had our PC. We had DOS. We had Windows. And anything the Windows operating system came to be. Could you imagine a computer that had been upgraded from DOS all the way to Windows 10? Now that would be crazy. DOS was, I think, Microsoft's first operating system. Don't quote me on that. But I don't, like before Windows there was DOS. And by the way, the cool thing about Windows, and pretty much any computer I think, you can actually run any old apps. Just like that Popit by Jim Kitchen. That was made in 2000. I'm running Windows 10 in 2018 or 2019. How old do you think that app is? If you said 18 when I said 2018, or 19 when I said 2019, you're correct. But I'll tell you, it is a really old app. There's no way to make the original iPhone work. Or the 2GS. I'd say the best one to get if you wanted to get a cool iPhone is the 4S. That's the oldest. And even that is going to that's gonna be weird. Ugh. I'd rather, I don't know if I should stop this video or what. Oh, great. Sorry guys, I'm just thinking about something. So again, I want to remind you, how do you think Popit came to be? You think Popit would have been automatically a 5-command Popit game with 4 different game modes or more? No. Popit started out as a 3-game toy with sound effects as the game modes. If you haven't seen the 1996 Popit, you gotta look at it. It's kind of cool. I think I'm as much as into old tech. I think I'm as much into old tech as Gallagher 123 123, but I don't know. But seriously, how do you think the note taker started out? The note taker, what blind people use. How do you think that started out? In fact, think of all the devices that came out before it. It's like a stylus from the 1800s, actually. The Perkins Brailler from 1951. Some device from 1975 that actually has a Braille display. The Braille and Speak from 1987. The first ever Braille note taker. The PackMate Windows note taker from the 2000s. The Braille Note from Humanware in 2000. By the way, how do you think the Braille Note started out? I'm pretty sure it had a starting point. So, if you don't know already, everything has a starting point. Starting point. Everything, not just technology. Cartoons. Even the Berenstain Bears. Or Berenstain or whatever. However you pronounce it. That had a starting point. It started out as a book. And how do you think Bridge to Terabithia started? How do you think Catherine Patterson got the idea? How do you think? How do you think the character Leslie got a starting point? The character was probably created because of Lisa Hill. Her death. If I was writing the Bridge to Terabithia book, I wouldn't kill off my character that I just brought back to life. But that's just me. Anyways, we're getting way off topic here. Oh great, there goes my obsession. Everything had a starting point. How do you think the entire universe, everything, got started? If you're a Christian, God created it all. And if you're, I don't know, another religion, I have no idea. How do you think a song has a starting point? Do you think a song automatically just starts playing? No, that's obvious. How do you think the radio got started? How do you think a TV? How do you think the TV got started? Again, how do you think Simon got started? The two people that made Simon, Ralph Baer was one of them. He saw the Touch Me arcade game from Atari and thought, well, why don't we create a game based off of that, but with harmonic and pleasant notes? Again, Dan Kushner, the guy that created Popit, said, well, let's make a game that people can play. And then I wish I could just say cue the 1996 Popit. But no, I don't have it. But I do have the sequel to it. I'm gonna... Oh! My apologies. Tried covering that up, but... It's okay, I guess no one's gonna see it. No one saw it, but everyone heard it. Again, how do you think the iPod came about? Didn't Steve Jobs just throw something out there and then it turned into an iPod? No, that's not it either. So I decided to make this video because I thought you, the Tone-Tastic 685, were very silly, and you didn't know that you could change, you can download the Microsoft Sam voice. I just wanted to say that everything has a starting point. In fact, we had a starting point. All of us humans had a starting point. So anyways, guys, ignore the and then just go. I gave you enough warning.